Job. For those of you who don't know, I am the Regional Vice President of Sales, Douglas Elliman, New England, and I get to sort of launch the night off and introduce Jonathan Miller, Jay Parker. Thank you for bringing everyone down or up from Florida to talk about new development and what we're seeing in the market.
Thank you, Scott. Well, thank you all for being here. It's really an honor to be up here with Kevin Ahern, and 2 years in since Douglas Elliman launched here in Boston. I have to tell you, as Jay Parker, I run Douglas Elliman in Florida, I couldn't be more excited both about being here, having an important presence in this market, and quite transparently to have all of you. Because as my colleagues always tell me, our team in Boston is simply amazing. And every time all of you have graced us with your presence in Florida, that message rings loud and clear. So thank you all for being here. Ultimately, the wisdom of our company and Howard Lorber's vision several years ago is made real here. The opportunity to be in all the markets where our clients want to be is really the recipe for success. So it's incumbent on you. It's really an opportunity for you and an opportunity for us to drive our business with different paths. We are traditionally focused on the market we're in. We're looking at our clients, we're looking at our listings, we're trying to attract new buyers. But the vision of Douglas Elliman and the opportunity that we're here to share with you today is to capture the opportunity to sell to your clients in other markets that we happen to know they want to be in and have an interest in. At this point in time in our market, in our country, the average age of our largest segment of the population is the millennials. The next demographic that meets that size component is the empty nesters, the baby boomers, and that segment of the population naturally translates down to South Florida. They move to the southern part, they move to the eastern part, the western part. They're frankly populating all of South Florida. And what we're going to tell you about today is how the market in South Florida has really evolved. It's no longer the Sunshine State for shady people. It's no longer the last stop before heaven. In fact, Florida has become an extraordinarily sophisticated market, both in its culture, its schooling, its residences, its single-family homes, the quality of its real estate professionals, and all other facets of the market. So with that, I'm going to introduce my friend, my colleague, Jonathan Miller. And there's so many incredible things to say about Jonathan that I ultimately have to refer to a list. But let's start off by saying, which I think is the most valuable, Jonathan is designated as the most trusted man in New York City real estate. That says a lot, and that's by the Observer. Jonathan is the author and the creator of our reports, our quarterly reports that are in so many markets. I quite frankly don't know how Jonathan's able to do it because the amount of data that he processes and then sends out to all of us is remarkable. Jonathan also is a professor at Columbia University. He serves on the New York City Mayor's Economic Advisory Panel. He continues to work with Douglas Elliman on a day-to-day basis, helping us to provide all of you with tangible, relevant, current information to help distinguish you from other real estate professionals in your market. At the end of the day, it's incredible to be a good salesperson. It's incredible to be an organized real estate professional and being able to work with your clients, but it's even that much more important to have current data to help you shape your clients' decisions and give them information that help you become more relevant and more important. Thank you. Jonathan Miller.
Thank you. So just a couple of clarifications with his introduction in terms of me being qualified to speak with you. First, I was born in Boston. And I had a Boston accent until I was 7 when we moved away. And so I think by the end of the day, when I catch the Amtrak back home, I will have returned to my Boston accent at some point. But thank you very much, Jay. And it's been a fascinating experience to, as Elliman dived into the Boston market through Kevin, to see how this market right now is so different than the other 35 markets I cover for Douglas Elliman on top of a bunch of new markets coming. And one of the characteristics of the downtown Boston market compared to any other market that we look at is you're wicked fast. And the market is moving very quickly. By the way, the public relations firm, when we released the Boston report, quoted me as saying the market was wicked fast. I didn't say that, but I proved it. And then my son and my now daughter-in-law both went to UMass, and they shamed me dearly because it makes me sound like I'm really not an authority on Boston if I talk like that. So anyway, one of the things that we're seeing is, we're seeing a unique problem in the sense that there's not enough supply in the downtown Boston market, and that's restraining sales. We're seeing that on the condo side in particular. And just for sort of a comparison, right now in the condo market, it would take 2.3 months to sell all the inventory at the current rate of sales. And that is 4 times faster than Manhattan, which is about 8.5 months, or 8.5, 8.6. And the townhouses are tighter, averaging right now, the month of supply is 1.5 months. So from a sort of national perspective, the number that's always thrown around is 6 months.
Boston is simply amazing. And every time all of you have graced us with your presence in Florida, that message rings loud and clear. So thank you all for being here. Ultimately, the wisdom of our company, of Howard Lorber's vision several years ago, is made real here. The opportunity to be in all the markets where our clients want to be is really the recipe for success. So it's incumbent on you. It's really an opportunity for you and an opportunity for us to drive our business with different paths. We are traditionally focused on the market we're in. We're looking at our clients, we're looking at our listings, we're trying to attract new buyers. But the vision of Douglas Elliman and the opportunity that we're here to share with you today is to capture the opportunity to sell to your clients in other markets that we happen to know they want to be in and have an interest in. At this point in time in our market, in our country, the average age of our largest segment of the population is the millennials. The next demographic that meets that size component is the empty nesters, the baby boomers, and that segment of the population naturally translates down to South Florida. They move to the southern part, they move to the eastern part, the western part. They're frankly populating all of South Florida. And what we're going to tell you about today is how the market in South Florida has really evolved. It's no longer the Sunshine State for shady people. It's no longer the last stop before heaven. In fact, Florida has become an extraordinarily sophisticated market, both in its culture, its schooling, its residences, its single-family homes, the quality of its real estate professionals, and all other facets of the market. So with that, I'm going to introduce my friend, my colleague, Jonathan Miller. And there's so many incredible things to say about Jonathan that I ultimately have to refer to a list. But let's start off by saying, which I think is the most valuable, Jonathan is designated as the most trusted man in New York City real estate. That says a lot, and that's by the Observer. Jonathan is the author and the creator of our reports, our quarterly reports that are in so many markets. I quite frankly don't know how Jonathan's able to do it because the amount of data that he processes and then sends out to all of us is remarkable. Jonathan also is a professor at Columbia University. He serves on the New York City Mayor's Economic Advisory Panel. He continues to work with Douglas Elliman on a day-to-day basis, helping us to provide all of you with tangible, relevant, current information to help distinguish you from other real estate professionals in your market. At the end of the day, it's incredible to be a good salesperson. It's incredible to be an organized real estate professional and being able to work with your clients, but it's even that much more important to have current data to help you shape your clients' decisions and give them information that help you become more relevant and more important. Thank you. Jonathan Miller.
Thank you. So just a couple of clarifications with his introduction in terms of me being qualified to speak with you. First, I was born in Boston, and I had a Boston accent until I was 7 when we moved away, and so I think by the end of the day, when I catch the Amtrak back home, I will have returned to my Boston accent at some point. But thank you very much, Jay. And it's been a fascinating experience to, as Elliman dived into the Boston market through Kevin, to see how this market right now is so different than the other 35 markets I cover for Douglas Elliman. And the market is moving very quickly. By the way, the public relations firm, when we released the Boston report, quoted me as saying the market was wicked fast. I didn't say that, but I approved it. And then my son and my now daughter-in-law both went to UMass, and they shamed me dearly because it makes me sound like I'm really not an authority on Boston if I talk like that. So anyway. One of the things that we're seeing is, we're seeing a unique problem in the sense that there's not enough supply in the downtown Boston market, and that's restraining sales. We're seeing that on the condo side in particular. And just for sort of a comparison, right now in the condo market, it would take 2.3 months to sell all the inventory at the current rate of sales. And that is 4 times faster than Manhattan, which is about 8.5 months, or 8.5, 8.6. And the townhouses are tighter, averaging right now, the month of supply is 1.5 months. So from a sort of national perspective, the number that's always thrown around is 6 months is a balanced market. And by the way, if you ever hear that, how many people quote that? 6 months. You know what I'm talking about? 6 months. Do you know that that's based on nothing? So when I was 10 years ago, when I was doing a lot of blogging, I looked far and wide for the 6 month number through the NAR website and a bunch of other places, and it does not exist. It's just sort of a comfort level, and it kind of makes sense. I would say that it probably is 6 nationally, and right now it's, nationally the numbers are more like 4, which means nationally there's an inventory shortage as well. But remember, every market is different. LA is, like 3 to 4 months right now. You're 2, and Manhattan's 8. And so from a pacing standpoint, every market's a little bit different. Anyway, what I'd like to do is introduce the panel, but because I'm really good with numbers and I'm not really good with names, I do have 4 children, and I have an index card to know what their names are. It would be too much for me to ask. So what I'd like to do is start with Darin, and maybe each of you could just give your name, your title, what group you're with Elliman, and go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. Friendly faces. I'm becoming to know your city pretty well, so it's good to be back up. I like the warmer weather a little bit better, but I'm not complaining. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Darin Tansey. I'm based out of the Miami Beach market. I am part of the Eklund Gomes team, and as many of you guys know also, I'm also called the Sarkis South team. So yeah.
Can you high kick?
Not in these pants, but I will give it a try.
Okay. Rochelle?
Right?
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. My name is Rochelle Lecavalier, and I work in the Boca Raton office of Douglas Elliman. In addition, I oversee sales at the residences at Mandarin Oriental in Boca Raton.
Hi, guys. David Green from the David Green Group. George Sarkis from the Sarkis team.
And what we want to delve into today, first of all, the idea of this presentation is to make the connection, make the link, which is really what Element does best, between geographic regions. Because, and as Jay had said, that one of the things that we can see, and I can see from covering all these different markets, every market is different, and buyers in one market may also have a need somewhere else. So, the point of this is to sort of understand where we're going. And one of the things that when I think about the connection is that it's really easy. I do this when I analyze a new market. I talk to people in the market all the time, and then I feel pretty comfortable about it, and then I know who to talk to, who I build a relationship with, in terms of the quality of or the information. What is the market doing? In this case with Element, I think it's more about who can I speak to that knows what's going on or what these properties are like, and maybe do a deal. One of the things that I guess I'd like to know, first of all, just real quickly, sort of a quick overview, maybe with Darin first, on the Miami market. What do you see going on right now? What's the lay of the land, sort of in plain English?
I'd say the lay of the land is that we have an abundance of supply right now with individuals that are coming down, obviously, for not only for tax flight reasons, but also coming down for second, third, fourth, fifth homes. Sports Center announcement over here. Yeah, this is a sports and entertainment division, so it's that's actually
That was
very
on
fitting.
cue.
There is that.
Yeah. There's we're seeing more of the national buyer, I think, in our particular market. I've been on the Ritz-Carlton Residence project, which we'll get into later, for about 3.5 years. But we're seeing more of that national buyer. So when I first came to Miami over a decade ago into the business, it was always that question. It said you have the Europeans or the South Americans that are coming in that are just dumping money because they need to get out of their country. Well, that's not the case anymore. Most of our buyers that are coming in are very sophisticated. They're highly educated in terms of, from a comparative analysis standpoint. They know what's on the market. They know what's selling. They know what's not selling. And for the bulk of those buyers, those are national buyers. They're looking for types of living to where it's experience-based. And each and every sale, I think, that they're looking at very specifically is not only where is there a good purchase, they want to get a good deal, they know that instead of 2 or 3 options, they now have 10 to 15 options. So that experience-based of what they're particularly looking for, and I know we're going to get into branded products, is something that's been very important to them.
So something that Darin mentioned, which I love, is he's very candid about the condition of the market. Like, he's not dancing around that there's elevated supply, but that represents an opportunity or a chance to showcase somebody's local expertise to match their buyer with a property in the wherever they're looking in South Florida. Before I go to Rochelle, I thought Jay could give us like a quick overview of this, since we had the Sports Center sound
Sports
effect.
Entertainment.
We could
Sure.
talk about the Sports and Entertainment
Sure.
group.
Well, first of all, we're here today with several members of the Sports Entertainment Division, which quite frankly makes up close to 10% of the entire Sports and Entertainment Division. I think there's 68 members across the country. And as with a company with the 7,000 agents, it gives you a little bit of a perspective on the process that we go through leading the Sports Entertainment Division to make sure that those people that participate are truly qualified. Being in the Sports and Entertainment Division doesn't mean that you represented a celebrity or you represented an athlete or you represented somebody that might be recognized as a celebrity because of their wealth. It actually means much, much more. It means that you have had the experience working with multiple people in that type of category to understand the nuances that that particular buyer or seller might have. Things like confidentiality, things like dealing with agents, things like looking out for their best interests, even though there might be self-serving interests that are bigger or potentially more relevant to you. It's also understanding how to hand off that client in a way that makes sense. That's really what the division was based upon. If somebody like George, who happens to work with several different athletes and celebrities, had a client that he wanted to refer to somebody, he would want to make sure that he could refer to someone that was in that division that understand how to work with that caliber of clientele. And that process, unfortunately, is not as easy as one might think. We've had circumstances in the past where, prior to having the Sports Entertainment Division, where a celebrity was handed off to another agent in another market, and notwithstanding that agent's assurances that, oh yeah, of course I understand privacy and confidentiality. First thing the agent does is post a picture in Facebook or Instagram talking about how this particular celebrity is with him. That obviously blows the relationship. And then there's a lot of work that has to be done. It's also managing PR. As you know, Douglas Elliman really leads the country with our PR initiatives. We've worked with the agents in the sports entertainment division to enhance the security and the efficiency of our PR initiatives, to make sure that information isn't released to one outlet versus another, and to make sure that ultimately the service, the expectation that we impose upon our agents in this division is consistent across the board. It's not exclusionary. Anybody that's in the division can work with anybody else, whether they're in the division or not. And we're not trying to say that if you're in the division, you get some type of special perk that no one else can get. It's really just sort of a referral engine that ultimately works to benefit. And I can tell you, there's plenty of times where a sports and entertainment agent will refer something over, and ultimately it might be passed to somebody that's not in the division, but it will always have the oversight. So if George passed a referral to Rochelle, and Rochelle said, that's not really my area of expertise, but I have someone in Boca that I can refer this to, she would then maintain the relationship and ensure that that oversight, that expectation of confidence, that expectation of relationship is really protected. We just recently had a referral from one of our agents in Florida to an agent in New York, an NBA player, and in this case, the agent actually took the NBA player to a residence that was no commission-based. And I was blown away by it because the referral agent said, "What do you mean? How could you have sent it to a place where they're not going to pay a commission?" And the agent that received the referral said, "Hey, look, this client's going to buy something. It's going to be a multi-million-dollar purchase. The rental was ultimately intended to be short-term. I wanted to do right by the customer," which we hope you would all do, whether you're sports entertainment or not. But that initiative ultimately led the buyer to move forward and looking to purchase a $10 to $15 million property in the New York market. So it's understanding that dynamic. It's putting the customer first that we obviously expect of everyone at Douglas Elliman. But it's this network, this sports entertainment network, it's at a different level through experience. And I hope that those of you that have relationships will reach out to us. We take individuals into the division twice a year. But also understand, like I said, if you represented one player or one celebrity or one ultra-high net worth individual, that really doesn't qualify you. And it's not to hurt you. It's to make sure that the brass at the sports entertainment division remains pure and clean and focused on this goal. And I can tell you, like I said, it ultimately permeates to everybody at Douglas Elliman. And these groups really make it their business to go into the markets, to meet people in the markets, to build relationships in the markets, which I have to tell you, coming back from Aspen, there is nothing that we can offer that is more valuable than our connectivity. So leverage that, leverage the relationships. Don't try to meet everybody. Meet one or two people and build those relationships, and you will see that they will translate into more business and more opportunity.
So what you're saying is I shouldn't call you to get Celtics tickets?
George, call me.
Okay, call you, okay. So Rochelle, maybe you could give us a quick overview of what you're seeing in your Florida market that you specialize in.
Super. So Boca Raton is located in South Palm Beach County. I like to refer to it as the heart of Palm Beach County. Those on Palm Beach Island might beg to differ. So what we're seeing by and large is that we were chatting about this morning, we're actually seeing a little bit of a dip in inventory, 12% year over year in terms of luxury single-family homes in the Boca Raton market. And I was sharing with Jonathan that sort of anecdotally, right, it doesn't seem like we have a shortage of inventory. It seems like we have quite a lot. And so it all comes back to this old figure of speech. If it's not compelling, it's not selling. So what we're seeing is a buildup of inventory of things that are probably priced above where they should be market-wise. And the things that are positioned correctly, priced well, presented well, they sell immediately. In terms of what people are looking for in our marketplace, Mandarin Oriental, the residences, it's the first branded product in our marketplace, and we are seeing a robust demand for that for many of the reasons that Darin mentioned. Primarily, it's the experiences that go along with a property such as that. In our market, we're seeing demographically a shift downward in terms of age. You're not going to believe this stat. Latest is average age in Boca Raton is 48 years old.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So if you ever watch Seinfeld, you would think it's like 112. No, 48 years old.
Wow.
So, the population is trending younger and increasingly affluent. So we're seeing people who can live anywhere. Money managers, they don't have to live in Connecticut or Manhattan. They can really take up residence in Florida. We're seeing a lot of people tax migration-wise,
Yes.
third, fourth homes, and just, sort of reallocating how much time is in each place because they can.
Right.
So in general, our market is increasingly affluent, increasingly young, and really seeking out the best of the best across the board.
So it's almost as if South Florida is rebranding itself over the last decade, pivoting from retirement focus to luxury or sort of second residence type living.
Yes, and I mean, there's a demand, obviously for more sophisticated offerings in terms of, entertainment, the arts, restaurants, retail. It's all like the entire experience in South Palm Beach County is just elevating. It's a really incredible time.
Interesting. David, maybe you give us a quick, really just for me, what's going on in Boston, or what are you seeing?
Sure, I think I speak for everyone here that we see, the buyers right now are willing to pay a premium for new construction. And it's not just the Pier 4s, the 50 Liberties, St. Regis's. I think it's new construction all over the board. You drive around, South Boston, East Boston, Cranes, everything. There's so much new construction going on that it's pushing all of the dollar per square feet numbers up. And then
Is that influencing the non-new construction pricing?
the non
Meaning
yeah, I
existing
think overall
property?
it's bringing everything up, because that dollar per square feet number is now, it's a comp, right?
Right.
We're using those numbers.
Okay,
So overall, it's driving the whole market up.
interesting.
And, on the flip side, you see a little bit of pricing pressure in Midtown. Older buildings, maybe 5 to 10 years old, like the Ritz, Millennium Place, those type, even Millennium Tower right now, if it's not brand spanking new, they're seeing a little price sensitivity
More
on
of a-
that. Yeah, or more, it's sitting on the market a little longer.
Right,
But for, going forward in 2020, with our low interest rates, inventory like you just talked about, 1 to 2 months supply.
Right.
And our Boston's job growth, it's, I
Strong.
see it really being good in 2020.
George, and what are you seeing?
Same thing, new construction is big. Basically, the older buildings are sitting on the market longer. Days on market is,
Are they sitting longer because they're trying to price like new development and it's being pushed back? Or it's just that the actual consumer is pivoting more towards new construction?
everyone wants new construction. The buildings that are being built today, new development-wise, just have a lot more amenities. They're offering a lot more. A lot of the older buildings in Boston, basically, their condo fees are higher. They're not
Right.
offering much.
Right.
And people just want to go where the new buildings are being put up. It's just more demand.
Right, and so that's why we're seeing record pricing in aggregate, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we just don't have enough supply, and then the supply that's coming in generally is new development,
New development.
and that's skewing pricing higher.
People are also seeing record prices in Boston at $4,000 a foot.
Right,
A couple sales don't dictate a market either.
Right.
So obviously
everybody wrote that down, right?
there's been some
Right,
record
it's-
there's been some record prices, obviously 4,000 a foot, 4,000 plus a foot, and that doesn't help our case sometimes because sellers in buildings that aren't so new think that, oh, well, they got 4,000 a foot on the water.
Right.
Maybe we can get 2,500 a foot.
We call
25
that aspirational pricing.
Yeah, so I
So-
mean, you just gotta, I think everyone understands sellers think their places are worth a lot more in Boston as well. We do have,
Not just Boston.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say,
everywhere, but-
I would say the entire planet. So Jay, what's different? So when we look at like buyers coming to Florida, like what do you, I know, it's hard to sort of simplify it into a couple of profiles, but what do you see the most of?
I think Darin touched on it. We are coming from a market in Florida where many buildings that were developed over the last 15 years were targeting a different type of buyer. It was much more of a flight capital buyer, a second home investment type buyer than what we're seeing today. We've all commented many times, and I've spoken with Jonathan about this on numerous panels, that the new foreign buyer is the domestic buyer, the national buyer, the person that's relocating.
Yep.
And it's for many, many reasons. It's the reasons we've talked about, tax reform, making a big impact. The ease of work, where you can work and how you can work that. I just had an interview a month ago with a news reporter about what kind of people are leveraging technology, what types of people are actually able to pick up their business and relocate. And with technology today, it's many, many different types of people. We've looked at the schools in South Florida and how they've expanded and evolved. One of the most famous private schools in Manhattan, called the Avenue School, has purchased a campus in Miami and will be opening up next year there. That is indicative of this shift. We're seeing products today that hit the market that are much larger, much more experiential, like Rochelle said. It's not just about the amenities. The old-time amenities, like I have a bigger pool or I have a bigger gym, that's not enough. People want lifestyle. So we're seeing things like children's playrooms. We're seeing billiard rooms and golf simulators. We're seeing buildings that are being built outside of the beaches. In fact, that's a trend in branded residential. Most of the branded residential, I think it's over 80% of the branded residential products are built in city centers. So it doesn't surprise you that in Boca, the Mandarin residences are in fact located in the downtown core of Boca Raton, which sounds more of downtown than it is. It's still low density. Most buildings are low rise. The traffic can get a little heated around 5 or 6 o'clock, but generally speaking, you can move freely throughout the market. So the buyer profile is shifting. We're seeing many, many more families relocating into South Florida, transplanting their children. And to me, I was a lawyer for 20 years before I took on this position. I can tell you most of the people that I spoke to from New York would say to me, you know, I really love it here, but my friends aren't here, and it's really hard for me to remove my kids from school because their friends are all there. But that process has changed. As more and more families move into the South Florida market, whether they're in Palm Beach or Boca Raton or Delray or Fort Lauderdale or Miami, they're bringing their friends. And that snowball effect is driving more and more of these people to say, hey, look, there's an opportunity. Now, by the way, I say that to people in Boston and people in New York and people in California with confidence because I don't believe the impact is detrimental to your market. I think it's opportunistic. The transfer of wealth will create opportunity. People will end up filling those opportunistic purchases in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey, and Boston. Obviously, the Boston market is strong. But overall, there is a shift. And we're seeing every part of our community alter and raise the bar to meet that demand. Every part of it. The residences, whether they're in the residences Mandarin Oriental or the Ritz-Carlton residences in Miami Beach, whichever it is, the product that's being built is so far apart from the product that was being built 10 years ago. 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, you would never see world-renowned architects. You never saw a branded product. In fact, what you saw was really basic, very large buildings, 300, 400, 500 units. We call them split floor plans, right? So you walk in the front door, there's a bedroom to the right, a bedroom to the left, a kitchen somewhere around it, a sliding door that opens to a balcony which you can barely put a lounge chair on. Today, it's a very different product. They're much larger, they're much more sophisticated, they're curated to meet the needs of this transferring buyer with a family, potentially a retiree that wants to walk, that wants to have connectivity to the market. And I have to say, as someone that works with 27 projects in South Florida, it's always exciting for me to be working with these developers and creating the product because they're fascinating on every part of the experience. The ceiling heights are higher, the outdoor space is larger, the amenities are for sure better, more creative, and more targeted to the demographic they're hitting, but also the experience. And that's really what we're here about today. What is a branded residential product and what distinguishes it from everything else in the market? And it's not the architecture, it's not the amenities, it's the experience, and it's what that experience means to people. And I can tell you that the people that are buying in Florida today, whether they're empty nesters, retirees, young families, or people just taking advantage of the influx of wealth into the South Florida market and everything else that brings, right? That's gonna mean more managers in retail, more chefs in restaurants, more teachers in schools, more doctors in hospitals, more nurses in hospitals, more people building product, more designers, more architects. It just goes on and on and on. And we can see people that are coming in to fill that need and bring a higher level of professionalism. And we're raising the bar to meet that demand to make sure that that experience for everybody is at the level that they can come to expect. I can tell you it's exciting.
Yeah, and just to add on to that is when you think about this shift, as Jay describes it, this pivot, this is not a fad or a passing gimmick. This is a structural change in the U.S. The salt tax, I don't know if it's referred to as a salt tax here in Boston, the federal tax that went into effect January 1st of 2018. In New York, we call it, in Florida, we call it the salt tax. That is causing people that were, say, on the margin thinking about making a move to make a move. And that's unlikely to go away in the near future. So, you know, the idea of capping property taxes and state and local taxes to a $10,000 market in areas that are high cost, high tax states like the Northeast and California, we're seeing the same thing with a movement to Texas. You know, tremendous interest, sort of the same idea. This is not a temporary situation. So we're just getting started. I think, you know, Jay and I had a conversation a while back that I think the expectation on January 1st, 2018 would have been like a light switch, and that everybody packed up from New York and just got in their, you know, their Chevy pickup trucks and just hauled everything to Florida, and that was it. And Rochelle with Mandarin Oriental, what are you seeing with, you know, the people coming? What are they telling you when they're looking at property like that?
So in terms of our offering, it is completely unique. It's groundbreaking in our market to have branded residences and this level of luxury. And one thing that's phenomenal about the Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group is their level of attention to detail and their emphasis on legendary experiences for the colleagues, for the residents, for the guests. Last week I was in a developer meeting, actually, and we had 3 executives from Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, 3 executives from Penn, Florida, architects, designer, and I was there. I was absolutely honored to be a part of this process. And, you know, we were going room by room in the residences in the hotel, like, okay, the guest is going to walk into the spa. What are they going to see to their left? What's to the right? You know, who is greeting them? What's the experience for the person, right? I mean, even down to we're in a ballroom and there's an event next door and people, engineers analyzing how much, I mean, it really to a level, I've never seen anything like this before.
Attention to detail on steroids.
Well, the attention to detail, but also it's about the experience, right? So like a beautiful building, like Jay was saying, there's only so much marble you can put in a place, right? It's like, it's a given that it has a robust pool and a wonderful fitness facility and certain amenities. It's a given. The true miracle, I'm gonna say, of like what the future of luxury is about the experience for people, and it's what they want. Like, for example, does everyone have a pen, a Mandarin Oriental pen on your table? Take a quick peek at this. Take a quick peek. What do you notice, anyone? I'm getting this thing interactive. There's no plastic here. So the Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group has committed to eliminate all single-use plastics from every property by March of 2021. Wow. So I was with these executives and they're talking about all the challenges, right? Like the little lid on the toothpaste, even like the shrink wrap in the kitchens. How in the world, that's the one they're like, we're not really sure how we're gonna fix that one. But like they've got the toothpaste thing, they have pens. So consumers today, and particularly affluent consumers, they have different concerns and different cares. So things like environmental concerns now mean something to people. And so the true luxury, you know, purveyors are gonna offer something that their consumers are gonna find important. So things like.
And so this is completely, you know, because I'm still obsessed with motor oil. When you think of a building that just has a luxury brand associated with it versus a branded development, what is that referred to in the market? Is there a name for it? Something that's not branded? Because I think a lot of people get confused, the consumer gets confused that it somehow suggests something better than the usual experience.
There are products in the Miami market that have several different brands. You have a branded architect, and they're equally valuable.
Starkitect.
And Starkitect. You have a branded exterior kind of focus from a, I don't want to say the name because it's not a product we represent, so there's no reason to talk about it. But when you bring together multiple brands, it confuses the customer. They don't understand what that
Right.
experience is. And that has proven to not be anywhere close to as valuable as what we're offering with the branded luxury residential products. So it's confusing.
Right,
What it
and that's
does-
why I bring it up, because we're not talking about that here. That
Not
we're
at
talking
all.
about a completely different
Yeah.
subset of the luxury
In
subset of
fact,
the market.
the non-hospitality based brands are used for one thing, and that is to gain exposure. That's it. They want to talk about it more. They want to hear about it more. The best was Porsche Towers in Sunny
Yes.
House, Florida, right? Why you need to bring your car into your apartment on the 27th floor, I don't understand. What you're going to do if ever the elevator breaks will be interesting to see. And there's 66 units for resale in the building, all at a discount from what it originally sold at, and there's probably, I don't know.
About 30 to 50% off.
Yeah,
Did you have
right.
to own a Porsche?
You don't have to own a Porsche, but it'd be kind of funny if you had like a Toyota Tercel. But what we've seen is no one really cared whether it was a Porsche or not a
Right.
Porsche. The building being Porsche or non-Porsche didn't matter, but it got global exposure. I mean, everyone in the world knows about this building, and we're going to see twisted buildings and buildings that rotate and all kinds of crazy stuff for exposure. But that's a sales gimmick. This is not. This is a
Right.
lifestyle experience. If this hotel looked exactly like it looked today and was not a Mandarin, your experience would not be the same. That's for sure. And those brand standards and those qualities that these people engage in, the training. Do you know that we've had multiple agents come to our company out of training programs at Mandarin and Ritz, as a matter of fact? And the reason why we accepted them was because we knew that they understood service and quality, and they become great realtors. So it's a very significant upsell to be in this type of a product.
I thought the Boston contingency you guys could talk about your experiences with sort of the Florida to Boston connection, like maybe some rules of engagement with brokers. Like what do you do? How does that work? This is a general.
I mean, I've had a lot of success with the Boston to Miami, the Boston to Florida referral business. I've had, as Darin mentioned earlier, I've had millennials going down there simply because could be watch dealers, jewelry dealers, and their business no longer needs to be on the ground in Boston.
Okay.
So they've went to Miami to save tax dollars. They have a lot of retail or shopping is done online now. So I've had people go down to Miami for the fact that they can save on taxes. I've had athletes that have played in Boston who have went to Miami and they need a place to live, and you keep in touch with them. There's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world where you might have a connection of someone that plays here. They may go to New York or may go to Denver, but if that's a contact, you should always stay in touch with them, because there's a chance that they do go to Florida, which has been the case. I've also had empty nesters going down to Florida. So all three of those things that Darin touched on have all worked in my favor. I've had people going down there to save on taxes, athletes moving down to Miami, and I've had retirees.
And what do you do? Like an agent in this room, they have somebody that wants to go to Florida. What should you do?
What should you do?
Call me.
Right.
Uh,
I guess from each person on the table, like, at the table, like what's the first thing you do? Like someone says, hey, I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna get a place in Florida. What
That's
do you do?
not the way it's going to work.
Okay.
It's
So
gonna
tell
be
us how
you
it's gonna work.
guys- It's going to be you saying to your customers, hey, by the way, we have a network that covers all these different places. If you ever have an interest in Florida, let me know. I can guide you to the right person that I have a relationship with, that I trust, that I know that we are accountable to. When I send a referral to Boston, I can count on Scott to make sure that it's smooth, as well as counting on the agent. And I'm sorry, and I don't want to overstate this, but it's so critical. We had a client from New York walk into a unit in Miami Beach and spend $16 million. It was a 5% commission on a $16 million unit. After the New York agent realized that it was his client, the bells were ringing. It's my client. I have to get the commission. And now, obviously, the developer said he walked in off the beach. There's no broker registration here. There's no broker, and I'm sorry, but I'm not paying you a commission. I mean, guys, If you're not asking your clients about their interest in the markets that we cover, you're leaving money on the table. And there's no better commission earned than the one that takes a phone call. I mean, hey, Rochelle, hey, Darin, hey, any agent that you have a relationship, my client's interested in your market. Let me make the handoff. You're done. They're gonna do their job.
And there's another quick level to that. You know, I mean, we've had a lot of Boston agents been doing this, showcasing you're from Florida up here online. And so the Boston agents, their clients see, oh, wait a minute, my agent has a connection to Florida. And that's all you need.
Absolutely.
And so it's the same thing with Darin being up here. You're showcasing that you're also in Boston. And so somebody that knows you, that knows whatever, notices that, okay, you have a connection to Boston. And that's all you need to see the product or see the
Well,
concept.
and the caliber of the agents that we attract and retain at Douglas Elliman are highly professional. So let's say someone calls, I always say, consider me a resource. If you're looking in Florida, give me a call. If I'm not the right person, 99.9, I can put you in touch with that right person.
Exactly.
Whether it's Miami, Jupiter, et cetera, we do cover a really broad.
So I guess the bottom line is that the agents here have to be proactive in anticipating or suggesting to their clients this as an option, and then the rest sort of falls into place.
Each and every one of our clients should know exactly where we are. One of my clients, and it was a very good friend of mine, I've done numerous transactions with them for almost 9 years, told me that he bought a townhome on this place called Beacon Street.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that sounds nice. How much was that? Until I realized what Beacon Street was all about.
Right.
And he said, Darin, he's like, I feel so bad. I never knew that you were in Boston.
Slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
And you start to look at these real life situations
Yeah.
to where it's like, whose fault was that? 100% mine.
Right.
My clients
Yeah.
seeing you now in Boston, talking about Boston.
Exactly.
with Boston agents, they would have made that connection.
And Jonathan, I want to make one comment about that, because not everyone has the $10 million, $15 million client. We were talking last week, like, it's any price point, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and a rental even, like, it's just a contact, you know, so that's something just to
Right,
think
right,
of.
right, we're not,
Yeah.
it's basically a transaction.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whether
just
it's
like us
sale, rental,
getting a
whatever
referral
price.
from Boston, like, we're,
Like-
you know, if it's a
Yeah.
contact, it's a contact, and, you know, they might rent the first year for whatever dollar amount, but you know
Just to
what?
test out the
2,
market.
3 yeah, exactly, 2-3 years they're gonna buy, so.
Right, that's
You
a
know, it's
great point.
interesting. Realtors come to us, our leadership team in Florida, all the time and say, what can we do to grow our business? And we typically do what a lot of professionals do. We map out the day. How many hours a day are you gonna spend on cold calling? How many days are you gonna spend on working with buyers? How many hours are you gonna spend working on listings? How many hours are you gonna spend on marketing? But the small-
What about lunch?
No lunch.
Don't worry, you can
Okay.
eat on the go. No, but the truth is, you should always have lunch with someone. It's a great opportunity to build business and build relationships. But the amount of time you have to spend on engaging with the people that you're already engaging with, talking about our connected markets, is so small. And again, to not do it, you're literally not leveraging what I believe to be the brilliance of our company. And to not do that, in all those hours, if it's 10 hours, if it's 12 hours, if it's this group, I know it's like 17 hours a day that they're spending working. I should say this entire group, because I know them well. It doesn't matter how much time you're spending, you're gonna get to a point where there's no more time in the day. If you don't build these ancillary business channels, you're leaving money on the table. Not just for you, but for all of us at Douglas Elliman. For those of you that know our company culture well, you know that we're agent-centric. Howard Lorber talks about it all the time. We get up every day and we think about what more we can do for you. 7 years ago when I joined this company, the brilliance, and I say it because I truly, firmly believe in it, the brilliance of Howard Lorber in being in only those markets that our clients want to be is the differentiator. But if you don't capitalize on it, make it your business to know each other, make it your business to share information, promote the other markets. We'll promote Boston just like we want you to promote Florida and promote California and promote Aspen and promote New York. These are the same people. So if they're not working with you, they're working with someone else, and that's just a shame. You should be able to increase your business exponentially by leveraging what we're bringing to you today, and I can tell you that we will do the same in retrospect.
That's a great point. What I'd like to do is just, maybe we could take some questions from the audience, from the panelists. I saw her hand first.
I know we talked a lot about Boston buyers going down to Florida, and I know Darin mentioned he had a friend that came to Boston, but how often do you see people in Florida who maybe want to come back and actually have a place up here, maybe for the holidays, they miss Boston, they miss the winter? Does that happen at all?
I have people who are currently I'm gonna say reallocating. So like maybe they have their big house in Boston and then they're maybe transitioning to spend more time in Florida and they're gonna be cycling out of what they have here, but keeping some presence.
Right, do you see the opposite though? Like they go down to Florida and then they're like, oh, I kinda miss,
Go
having
back.
some sort of access to the Northeast and coming back up.
Like they miss seasons.
Yeah.
What I do see is there are a lot of, I always say that you can define a realtor by the strength of his or her Rolodex, right? So it's not just transfers, it's relationships. And I can tell you, I'm from Toronto. I have probably a dozen close friends in the Miami market that have families in Boston. So I obviously don't sell real estate, but if I were working.
I do.
Yeah, don't worry. We're all connected. If I'm a realtor, my job is not simply to think about, hey, are you moving? It's to think about, hey, you might have someone that lives here that says, hey, I'm going to the University of Miami. I might have someone that says, hey, I'm going to Harvard. That's a relationship for you because that person's gonna move here and it might be temporary, it might be a rental. They might have family here that's looking to buy a place in this market, relocate. It's through the connectivity, the relationship. I always say, if you go to McDonald's, which I don't go to, but if you go to McDonald's in Shanghai and complain about an experience that you had in Boston, they're gonna look at you like you're speaking another language, which you are, but they're gonna be crazy. If you go to Douglas Elliman in Boston and you tell them about an experience that you had in Miami, they're gonna care. Scott will care. He'll make sure that that experience is a positive one. If I'm a client and I know that you're gonna be able to ensure that when I get to your market or another market, that the concern that I'm gonna have for you is not just about me earning a commission, that's a differentiator.
Yeah.
So there is no doubt that within this small network of markets that we cover, the opportunity to gain business from each other is 100% factually based. And not only that, any realtor that says, hey, Scott, I didn't get a referral this week, they're looking at it the wrong way. The referrals are coming from agent to agent every single day. And it's on you all to build those relationships. Because once they're established, and I'll second this statement, but once the relationships are established, they're yours to own. And someone once said to me, but then why should I go to this event or that event? People have already built their relationships. We have 7,000 agents. Okay, out of those 7,000 agents, I guarantee you more than 75% of them have not established referral relationships. But it's on you. You don't just go meet somebody at reInvent or meet somebody at another event and say, okay, I got their business card. That's just like, hi. Now you gotta find out more about them. Where do they specialize? What do they do? How can they help you? Where do they grow your business? And then they too, I've watched Rochelle and Darin completely own this opportunity. They've built relationships in every single market, and they're not just saying, hey, what do you have for me? Because then they're making the same mistake that other people are making. They're not thinking about how they can drive that additional line of business into the other markets. We know that our clientele, from New York to Boston to California, Colorado, South Florida, they all move in these markets. And so to not do this, it's insanity. It really is. It's business insanity to not be thinking of how you can grow your business into other markets that we're specifically in. Now, if I told you, hey, we're opening up in, Chadsford, Pennsylvania, maybe that's even, I could go more remote. Where are you from in Iowa? Burlington, Iowa? You might say, there's not that much business going from Boston to Burlington, or Miami to Burlington, but in our markets, there's a ton of business. So it's just about navigating this landscape and figuring out, okay, who's the person that's most likely to think of me? And I can tell you, amongst this group, they're always thinking, what else can I do? Who else can I touch? How else can I build my business? So you must take advantage of this. Give it 10% of your time on a weekly basis to think about, who do I know? Bring it up, especially as it gets cold. People will start thinking about warmer climates. Ask them, hey, are you going down to Florida? Are you looking for a rental? They'll all work with you on rentals. It's through those rentals that the relationships are fortified. So there's tons of business going in every direction.
And you can build those relationships digitally. I mean, on social media and their platforms, you can build those relationships and reach out to a Darin Tansey and show your network and your network's network that you've got exposure down in Florida. And right there's somebody within that group that's buying or selling Florida.
Another question? Yeah.
Just to follow up on the connection between Boston to Florida, I had an example where a client was relocating to Tampa, so I called Darin, and Darin connected me with Jay, and within one day,
Jay, we've all talked about people retiring and moving to Florida. We've all talked, this has been happening forever, especially from New England, for tax reasons, for comfort reasons and everything. And we touched upon it a little bit briefly on, private equity, hedge funds, money managers, and that's an easy product to sort of move down there. What about corporations? And, what about industry? Because a lot of people, especially our age bracket, need to work. And for them to go to Florida, it's gotta be a full-time job.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more transition of corporate foundations. Most recently, we saw, what's his name? Icon.
Right.
Carl
Carl
Icahn.
Icahn.
He basically told his entire company, like, we're moving to Florida. I'm giving you a $50,000 relocation budget. You're either in or you're fired. That was it. That's pretty harsh, but that was his decision. We saw Appaloosa, one of the largest hedge funds in the country, move out of Connecticut? New Jersey, I'm sorry. That one move took $125 million in tax revenue out of the state of New Jersey. Very significant. We're hearing from marketing companies, we're hearing from technology companies. In fact, interestingly, we're hearing more and more from companies in California, from Silicon Valley, that are saying, look, my employees cannot afford to live in Silicon Valley, the cost of living is too high. They're driving with their automatic cars an hour and a half to 2 hours each way each day, which is why you see these great institutions where they have, gyms and lunch and dinner and dry cleaning and everything, because people are in their car 4 hours a day. So if you look at the cost of living, the inconveniences of commuting, and the savings that both the corporation and the individual have moving to Florida, we're seeing a lot more of that. We anticipate the corporate relocation business to continue to grow, but if that takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to move a family.
Yeah.
It's even more complicated to move a whole business, but there's no doubt in my mind that is going to continue to happen. And part of the reason why we know that is because if you look in South Florida, throughout South Florida, the amount of multifamily products that we see, apartment buildings, are just staggering. And that's because people are anticipating that there's gonna be this whole transition of people relocating for all kinds of reasons.
I think something to keep in mind is that the favorable economic client is not only for the individual. So if you have relationships, I think, George, you mentioned someone who's like a jeweler, someone of that nature. A couple of years ago, I actually relocated a mattress manufacturer from Montreal to South Palm Beach County. They just had their entire, talk about punitive taxation, right, in Quebec, my God.
God.
So if you have relationships with small business owners too, putting them in touch with some of the people who are, economic development individuals with the cities and counties, you can be a huge resource for them, and then, of course, relocate their entire team.
I
Maybe
like
not
that.
Carl Icahn's team.
Punitive taxes.
Punitive taxes, when are they not punitive?
taxes.
When they're 5%.
Yeah, Fred?
Really great dialogue, really, at least for me, very, very helpful. One of the things I just thought of was that you're talking about acquisitions. I had a meeting with a client of mine, we're getting together this coming Monday, and I really didn't know how to connect. And I think I'm right, we have 350 offices, give or take, it's a glossy that we use on a presentation. And I thought, you know what, it's important, because we serve multiple markets, and this individual is actually, his business is on the block, there's an LOI, they've got through January to perform, and not only will we list his property, but he's thinking something million and a half in Florida, as well as some other
Right.
property here. So what occurred to me is that I really, until now, didn't connect the glossy to help me get the listing to the actual heartbeat that exists and the feet on the ground with all of you. So I know for one, I need to get tighter on how to actually reach out, as well as convincing this individual. Maybe the way to do it for me is, I'll get a call going and one of you, okay, I'll listen and you guys talk. It is possible for me to just listen. But at least make that connection up front, because I know I'm protected and I know the right people are gonna take care of that particular client, so.
Let me give you a help. In Dade County alone, which is the county that Miami sits in, there's close to 50,000 real estate agents. Unfortunately, and we've tried to change this, now that everybody's a licensed realtor, it is very easy to become a real estate agent in Dade County or in Florida. Many of the realtors in the market, unfortunately, don't know what they're doing. They don't have the professional acumen, they don't have the experience, they don't have a company like Douglas Elliman, because we won't allow those agents into our brand, to support them. So ultimately, it's quite possible that your customer is walking around in Miami, sees a real estate office, walks in, ends up with a realtor that might look nice, but doesn't have a clue what they're doing. So in developing and enhancing your relationship with your customer, the value proposition is what you're selling. I've heard of those people going down to Florida and ending up with a realtor that was what we call a commission chaser. They'll sell you down a river as long as they get paid a commission. With us, as you've heard, it's much more about the relationship. It's about, from cradle to grave. We want to work with you. We want to make sure that you make the right decisions. And so frequently, I've heard agents of ours saying, I had this customer come down from New York, or I had a customer come down from elsewhere, and we put them into a rental for a year with a 1-year extension. And I know in their heart they're saying, I wish I could have sold them, but they know that they'll sell them in a year or they'll sell them in 2. But most importantly, they're giving them a chance to acclimate to the communities, because they're very, very different. We have product throughout every single price point, every single one of them, from $300,000 to $40 million to more. We have in fact, we closed a $112 million home in Palm Beach, and we've done deals as small as a couple $100,000. We can service the client at every level. But more importantly, what somebody wants today, depending on what their needs are and what stage of life they're in, could be offered in every single county and every single market, but we want them to explore it. So giving them to a Douglas Elliman agent, whether it's in Boston or any of our other markets, is hopefully going to ensure that they're given the care and concern as if it was their own family, their own friend, or their own long-term client. To me, that's the value proposition. Why would you not take our guidance to put you into the hands of somebody that's vetted, that's qualified, that has risen above the bar necessary to be a Douglas Elliman agent, who's going to be looking at what's in your best interest? And I always say, as a guy that practiced law for many years, wouldn't it feel really uncomfortable if you went to a doctor and the doctor was thinking, well, how much can I get on this guy? How much can I make off of her? Or if you went to an accountant and the accountant said, how can I really drive his bill up this year? Instead of thinking, I want to get their taxes right, or I want to heal the person, or I want to protect the person. Now, granted, there are lawyers that only think about how much money they can make, but the difference between a really good one or a good doctor is the one that really thinks about what is in your best interest. And for the professionals that I've worked with throughout our company, I'm very confident in saying that the level of professionalism and the client-centric approach is really to be cherished and appreciated and capitalized upon.
And I will say, just going back to what you said, Fred, you might not know the Florida market, which is perfectly fine, because we're not in the business to know the Florida market. So the way I've had success in that same scenario is I've always told my client here, I have a partner in Florida, or I have a partner in New York. You get on a call with that partner. If you don't know who that partner is, even though you sound confident that you do have a partner and you know who it is, you call up Jay, you call up Scott, or if it's in LA, you call up a Stephen Kotler, and you give him the rundown on that client, what he's like, age, who you think you'd get along with. You find that partner, you have a conversation with the agent that he recommends you use, and then you bring that agent on a call, and you don't really talk. The other agent talks, and you did your job because he's an expert in that market.
Let's thank the panelists for their sharing their knowledge.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Go sell some real estate.
Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Right over here there's a button that says subscribe. Pretty self-explanatory. Hit that button, subscribe, and just next door there's a bell. Click that as well, and you will be notified each and every time I upload a new video. We have the series Tuesday Tours, we have Boca 360, and all sorts of market reports and other useful information for you about the Boca Raton luxury real estate market. If you have a few minutes, I hope you'll stick around and check out a couple more of my videos. After all, I made them for you. Right here, it's a Tuesday Tours episode, and just here, a market report. I'm Rochelle Lecavalier, bringing you the very best of Boca Raton luxury real estate. Hope to see you soon.